My grandfather is ambidextrous, but it wasn't natural. It was something he had to learn at an early age. He is naturally left-handed, but is of the generation where teachers would whack his hand if he'd try to use his left hand to write. See, lefties are less common than righties. Therefore, if you write left, you're a sinful deviant. It may sound like there's some missing evidence in that logic chain, but no, people just believed that for a long time. Don't get me wrong, left-handed people can be sinful deviants. Looking at you, Austin. But it's strange that people have a hard-coded bias against a literal direction. All of that has often had me wonder whether these biases would be at play if, say, you had a hypothetical group of people whose political leanings were summarized by said direction. A political left wing. Leftists, if you will. Now, before you go accusing me of overthinking things, first of all, of course I am. I find something I'm interested in, and then I don't stop thinking about that thing. Ever. Dinosaurs at age 5? Can't get enough of them now. Batman at age 13? My YouTube channel is named after the notorious Batman villain. The milkshake. You should absolutely find my recurring joke about Altair giving blowjobs suspicious. It's because I can't stop thinking about Altair sucking my dick. Second of all, it's not unprecedented. Our languages carry bias like a motherfucker. For example, the following two words are the same word except for the context of gender. Wizard, witch. Wizard, by default, conjures up, see what I did there? More broadly positive connotations. They're cool. They wear fancy robes and do kick-ass spells. They're like Merlin or Gandalf helping our hero save the day. Witch, however, carries broadly negative connotations. They're ugly, in ragged black robes. Their magic is all about manipulation and deceit. They're going to do bad guy things. Real heteronormatively unfuckable. If I asked somebody whether a wizard or a witch is more likely to eat a baby, which answer do you think they'd give?
Azula. Who is more likely to eat a delicious little baby? A wizard or a witch?
Okay, the jury's still out on that one. The point is, both words simply mean person who performs magic, but humans suck towards women, and so we carry it in the language. If you think that is a one-off thing, try this one. Master versus mistress. Same word, gender flipped. We could have heavier implications on something like master due to historical connotations from slavery, but no, a master is someone who's just really expert at what they do. Like Bane Shakes Charlie being a master of rambling. Mistress, though, that sounds like a woman having sex with a guy, but it's a wrong guy that we don't approve of. I'll rein things back into left and right. Anti-left direction bias goes way back. Our word sinister comes from the Latin word sinistro, which means, you guessed it, left, as in on the left. I learned this as a kid because of Green Lantern comics. The villain Sinestro is both left-handed and evil. On the flip side, the Latin word dexter means right, as in on the right, and it gives us positive words like dexterous, which means you have mad skills, yo. Biblical tradition, which obviously influences quite a lot of Western thinking, also leans into these biases. When Gosh himself comes back to Terminator 2, Judgment Day, all of us naughty non-believers get sorted onto his left hand, where he chucks us into a volcano. But his dutiful subscribers who like and comment and click the bell icon for the Lord Most High get sorted onto his right hand, where they get reserved lodging in New Jerusalem, a 1,500-mile-tall golden cube city overlooking the ruins of the old earth where dogs fight for scraps in the barren wasteland. Don't forget to support his monthly Patreon. Don't worry, I actually read good literature too. In the Bionicle novelizations, wise elder Turaga Matau advises, a Toa hero never goes left. And you know, if I'd just started with that one, I wouldn't have even needed all of these other examples. Hell, even the non-directional meanings of left and right carry the same connotations. Left, past tense of leave, is something you've moved away from, something that is no longer pertinent. It commonly has connotations of sadness. You are either sad because you left something good, or something was bad and so you left it behind. Something right is something correct, upstanding, the moral victor, right? Right. People with more conclusive studies than myself think we know where the likely root of anti-left-handed bias, and likewise the negative left language, come from.
Zula, why are people racist against left-handed people and stuff? You're making it very difficult to write a thesis here.
See, back in melee combat days, since 90% of humans are right-handed, left-handed people often have an unfair advantage thanks to the element of surprise. Warriors are out there expecting attacks from your right hand, so if you're attacking with your left hand, you're being shifty, and that's not cool, bro. So we don't like the word left, and smart people think we know why we don't like the word left. Certainly, though, it's all just happenstance that right-wing and left-wing politics ended up using terms with so much extra baggage built into it, and it's not like there was a context that might have influenced how the political meaning of the words were distributed. So the context that influenced how the political meanings of the words were distributed is the French Revolution. I'll simplify things way down, because I will have to come back to this topic when I get to Assassin's Creed Unity in that video series, because oh boy does that game intercourse the canine on the historical representation. Essentially, due to financial fuckery, France assembled the Estates Générales, represented by the First Estate, which was the clergy, the Second Estate, the nobility, and the Third Estate, the normal people without the money or the power. The Third Estate was given twice as many representatives, but it was performative representation, because the voting would not be given by head count, but by power already held. The Third Estate walked out, eventually with enough clergy, nobles, and other peasants joining them to form the National Assembly. Obviously, things continued being pretty divisive, since the king and his supporters didn't like normal people having more power. The members would divvy up on each side of the assembly's president accordingly. Conservative supporters of the king would be placed on the president's right-hand side, a right wing, and revolutionary supporters looking to change the status quo and give more power to the people would be placed on his left-hand side, a left wing. Now, I don't know whether we have this same right-hand, left-hand bias consciously caused by the Assembly's president. The first president, Jacques-Guillaume Thoré, I hope I'm saying that wrong, did personally advocate heavily secularizing the church's property, so he certainly wasn't abiding by the status quo. However, he would later get guillotined during the Reign of Terror, so presumably there was at least some disagreement with the revolutionaries. The French Revolution gets messy that way, both in political ideologies and in neck blood. It is possible he subconsciously sorted things. Normal people get my right hand by default, and smelly poor people who keep bitching about personal liberties can have what's left. Regardless of his intent, or lack thereof, several negative associations toward left-wingers are present from this linguistic genesis. I find this passage from the Baron de Gauville's journal to be especially telling about some of the mindsets surrounding proceedings. Le 29, nous commencions à nous reconnaître. Wait, I don't speak French. The 29th, we began to get to know each other. Those who were attached to their religion and to the king confined themselves to the right of the president, in order to avoid the shouts, the remarks, and the indecencies that were happening in the opposing party. There were about 150 members of the clergy, as many nobles, and 80 from the Third Estate. I tried numerous times to sit in the different parts of the room and to not adopt the marked spaces, with the aim of being more the master of my opinion. But I was obliged to completely abandon the party on the left, where I was condemned to always vote on my own, and as a consequence was condemned to the booze from the gallery. Basically, the French Revolution version of centrist bullshit. I'm just trying to think for myself, but the radical left is just too radical, and I have no choice but to oppose reform. Time is a flat circle, and we are the chronological pepperonis, or something. The point is that right out of the gate, using the terms left-wing and right-wing intentionally or incidentally gave strong examples of built-in negativity associated with being left. I also double-checked that French has similar language biases, else this would not actually connect cleanly to the first 1,500 words of the video, and yes, French does. The French word for right, droit, is root of the word adroit, which is a French word meaning you have mad skills, yo. The French word for left, gauche, has such strong negative connotations, we can use it in English negatively. Gauche also means to be crude or socially inept. It is Gauche if I start telling my conservative relatives about our need to seize the means of production at my grandmother's funeral. So I think I've duct taped enough of an argument together to demonstrate the claim that there is a secret, subconscious bias coded into our language against the left. Not bad for my first dirty leftist think piece. Now, I get it. This is all a fun premise, but big deal. People don't like a word. We leftists can obviously overcome that with our winning arguments, in-depth reasoning, and our incredible prowess at making tender, romantic love to other consenting adults. The important thing to remember is that the average Joe isn't operating under advanced understanding of political theory and often haven't even heard some basic concepts that more politically literate individuals might take for granted. I haven't always been a socialist. I grew up in the American Bible Belt, raised by a man who still hangs Ronald Reagan wall calendars up in his home office, and thanks to the default status quo in areas like mine, I spent a long time thinking libertarian right talking points were logical and beneficial to me, a mildly poor kid. Cringeworthy, I know. It was a gradual process to get out of that mindset, and there was absolutely a large window where I could have easily been derailed by big, scary buzzwords. Yes, even something as simple as left wing. The status quo is enforced this way. Capitalists spend a lot of time and a lot of money to enforce negative connotations on words associated with leftist thinking. How many times have you heard some chucklefuck Republican accuse their liberal opponent of being some far-left, communist, scum-sucking dino-flagellate? I bet it's too many times for you to count. And liberals are still capitalists too, you morons. Even without a centuries-long multi-cajillion-dollar propaganda campaign from people who own a lot of shit and want you to own less shit, I can confidently say there is at least 67% chance that the language bias would impact young, uninformed people like I used to be on some level. Wait, can I go back and change that to the funny number instead? So what the hell are we supposed to do when we have such an uphill battle that even our default language is fighting our cause?
We use the hypno-programming communist daddy Bill Gates included in the COVID vaccine to rewrite the language center of everyone's brains for our own personal gain.
Wait, no. Well, in those contexts, we have to find ways to communicate around these sticking points. You might remember at the start of this video I called out my friend Austin for being a sinful left-handed deviant. He is actually one of the best people I have ever seen at doing this. No matter who he is around, be they casual, Biden definitely does good shit for my life all the time, liberals, we should compromise with fascists, centrists, or fundamentalist right-wing young earth flat earthers on their third divorce who think George Soros paid Pixar for lesbianics. Austin can fluently communicate leftist ideas with people agreeing wholeheartedly, without ever tipping his hand and scaring them away from the idea. For example, talking with other workers here in the American South, the same workers being exploited by their rich upper management, who have been conditioned that socialists are actually evil wizards who will eat their babies. That's right, the wizard was going to do it, this whole time. One method Austin has used is explaining things as a workplace democracy, because those words are not scary. He explains the same concept, but it's just talking about how those upper managers, whom all the workers agree are out of touch, run things less effectively than if all of us normal workers, who know how our stuff functions, had full democratic say in how these things are run. They frequently agree with him, and that's one puzzle piece in place. Because here's the thing, leftist beliefs are very agreeable human beliefs. At the core, we don't want people suffering, or sick, or dying. Deep down, the capitalist class is fine with people suffering, or sick, or dying.
And you know, Tucker, no one reached out to me and said, as a senior citizen, are you willing to take a chance on your survival in exchange for keeping the America that all America loves for your children and grandchildren? And if that's the exchange, I'm all in.
More than 1 million Americans would proceed to die from said discussed pandemic, but hey, at least Applebee's stayed in business to serve you flamin' hot Cheetos boneless wings.
We have an empathetic advantage, so we should present things from that perspective. Now, Austin is also actually well-versed. He has read and studied a wide variety of ideologies to make sure he's presenting the strongest possible arguments, so that's probably also related. I know I'm guilty of not always getting deep enough into the material, because capitalism is also banking on us, the workers, being too exhausted to educate ourselves. Though, I think being coy with scary left words is a great policy until you know someone is able to handle them. There's certainly a lot of nuance this broad topic has not addressed. We do like our nuance here on Lagauche. That's why our memes are so wordy. First of all, I'm not advocating that you lie. Just keep your cards close to your chest as necessary. If people think or discover that you are actually being dishonest with them, that is one of the fastest ways to actually lose them on your argument, much faster than any subconscious linguistic malarkey would have done. However, if you are in a position where someone with power over you can or will be abusive or neglectful to you if you are honest in your beliefs to them, then whatever you do, do not try to be stealthy truthful at your own risk. I don't care what commandments Gosh gave Mosasaurus on the mountain. It is fine to lie to prevent harm from befalling you. If you are even remotely unsure, it is probably better not to risk it. So yeah, I think I've finally fixated out the weird negative left coding my stupid writer brain couldn't stop noticing. And look, I even managed to offer something of a solution, with a whole bunch of caveats. Cool! How am I supposed to close out a video like this?